Uh, I'm sure I can go find something real quickly, which I probably will, because now you're showing us up, Mark, and now we have to be festive.
That's okay. I'm going to go change now because this thing's going to get super hot here in about like 5 minutes. So I'm going to go put on an ugly Christmas sweater instead.
There you go. That's a good idea.
God, what the no. Go take that off. You can keep the hat. I like the hat. Take off the sweatshirt. Oh, it's so ugly.
Hey. This hat predates growth. Okay.
We can't talk spoilers. John hasn't watched it yet.
Hey, and welcome.
Right, ready? Okay, I gotta get ready.
Oh.
Clank, clank.
No, I gotta pull up my shit because I can't see you guys in the problem.
Clank.
Clank. Hello and welcome to Strange Happy Hour. I am one of your hosts and also a gift, Brent the Jester Headman.
No, stop that. No.
I walk to my right.
Handsome John Petty.
And on to the left in the group hat himself.
The dispatcher, Mark Clover. God, I gotta censor that.
I want you to know, by answering that, you have admitted that that's a Grogu hat and not a Yoda hat. That's really important.
No, God, no.
Of course, we come to you each and every week to talk to you about the very cool tech news as well as the interesting video game news. But there's none of that this week because this is our last episode of the year. It's the final time where you get to see our smiling faces. This gift, if you will, before we go on to 2021.
No.
But before we go into our tops of the years, like I guess the top 8 now, because it was the top 7 last year, but now it's the top 8. We do have some Cyberpunk 2077 updates I want to ramble through very, very quickly. Sony has pulled Cyberpunk 2077 from the digital store and will offer refunds to everyone who has the game. So, if you want your refunds, now is the time, because I'm certain that this is only going to last for a certain amount of time. Xbox is expanding its return policy as well, so that it incorporates Xbox and PlayStation, which is where the biggest issues are happening. CD Projekt Red employees grill management over the release. There actually was an entire thing where they had a Christmas party get together via like Zoom and stuff, and they were not happy, which was great.
Can't blame them.
And then, of course, on top of all of this, just to complicate matters, Cyberpunk 2077 has sold over 13 million units since launch. So, where do we stand? I guess we'll figure that out. But that is all the information you need. You can find the links in our Google Doc, of course, before we move on to...
Don't forget, they talk shit about people in the middle of their earners meeting,
yes,
too.
Of course. They were in the middle of their earners meeting. The upper management was in the earners meeting saying that crunch was really not that bad. It was completely fine. As a matter of fact, it was very limited. And then apologized openly to all the employees, which is what led to the grilling session.
Wait. Was the initial meeting where the crap talking happened, was that like an exec meeting where a bunch of people who weren't participating in the crunch had to be there, or like weren't there for it, or like
yes,
what?
100% on a call with top investors?
Get out of here.
Yep.
Okay.
And then walked his ass back like a little child. Was like, I'm sorry I said that.
The biggest baby you can find. He's more of a baby than Sweet Baby Genius. He's
he's time to move on too. We just started the show.
Every week on this very show, every time you listen to these happy faces, that's all I got for this week. I'm so tired. It is what we call the important.
The important.
One, like I said, we're not going to do one or 3 topics apiece. 3 topics total, 1 topic apiece. We're going to do a total of 8 touch points for our tops of the year, whether they positive or negative. But we're going to start at the top with our top entertainment for the year. And John, I want you to go first, actually.
Okay.
I know we have a specific order, but I think it's Handsome John who gets to say it first.
All right. My top entertainment of the year is actually Link's Awakening remake that I played on Switch.
What? That wasn't released this year.
Oh, I know. But at the same time, I played it this year, and you're just going to have to deal with it.
Oh, shut up. We have other games on this list that weren't released this year.
And just to appease you, my game of the year, like top entertainment of the year for me, was Ghost of Tsushima. I put in probably the majority of time, like most of my time, into platinuming that game and loved almost every second of it. But Link's Awakening definitely touched my heart in like the nostalgic way from when I was a kid. Was able to finish the game, which I wasn't able to as a kid, and it was just so good. It was like, it's probably one of the best remakes I've ever played. hands down.
I fucking love that game. I love that game so much. I have weird nostalgia and memories of that game because at the time when I was super young, I used to read strategy guides to beat games, and I would have them open while I was playing the game. But oftentimes, if I wasn't playing the game, I would be reading the strategy guide to read ahead. So I read the entirety of the Link's Awakening strategy guide. So even though I never beat the game as a child, going back and playing the remake, I knew how to beat the boss because in my head, I remembered what I read, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. Use this here." Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm good. So the boss was actually not challenging at all. And I was like, man, this is really weird.
Dude, that final boss like ruined me, man. I was like, what do I do to you? That was good though.
Spoiler alert. Magic powder.
Yeah. I was like, I didn't see that coming because I haven't used that shit in forever since the beginning of the game.
What about you, Dispatcher? What's your favorite top entertainment of the year?
So I guess the hard part for me is like I didn't really.
Oh, you are muted for some reason or another in Discord, which is really interesting.
Yeah. definitely wasn't muted on the recording, but no, like I haven't really participated with a ton of entertainment this year.
You were a busy bee.
Yeah. I've been doing a ton of work. Actually, so here, actually, I come to think of it, like you put the title as entertainment, and actually, I almost want to flip my answer, and I've had that on there for a little bit.
Flip it, man.
So,
Flip it.
So
it's okay.
I put Flight Sim 2020 because that was easily one of the more anticipated games for me this year, and the outcome of it was tremendous. I mean, like the graphical quality is great. The performance of it, while very taxing, is still pretty good for what it is, you know, and it was definitely a very good revamp of an older game anyway that I wanted to see because FSX came out in 2007, 2006. You know, it's been
pretty solid too.
It's been a long time since that's happened. Plus, you know, the fact that this game is cloud based, and the updates, you know, like and like some of the funny things anyway that people have come across too have also been pretty good too. So, I put Flight Sim 2020, but I'm actually going to flip the script here because we had sort of talked about it a little bit and kind of reminded me. I'm going to say The Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's a solid choice.
I'm going to say that The Mandalorian, because season 2 is the only one that's aired this year. But I would say that The Mandalorian, if you haven't seen The Mandalorian, go see it or go check it out on Disney Plus. I fully recommend it anyway. It's a wonderful series. Definitely plays into, you know, Star Wars very well anyway, and a lot of the timelines, not to mention like crossing with, you know, like some of the main storylines or some of the main characters from other storylines too anyway that are really,
we'll put it this way,
really great,
Disney's literally spinning off shows off of this show. It's that successful and doing that well. Like because they announced 2 other series, I guess, from the Star Wars universe that are supposed to come in. My question for you, Mark, did you watch to the end of the credits at the season finale?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. So 3, technically.
Yeah, 3.
So really big fan of what they've done. I couldn't agree more with you in the sense of like that show is phenomenal. It is doing Star Wars a great service.
I don't know if you've seen the behind the scenes too on how they film some of the things and some of the spaces that they're in. Like some of the tech that they're using for this is actually pretty tremendous. So they use like 3D modeling programs to build out the spaces, but to position the spaces and to build the sets out, it's all like some real objects anyway in a small room space, but it's completely surrounded by screens all the way around, basically that fill in with a 360-degree view of whatever 3D modeled environment they build for planets and all kinds of stuff. Like the building of it is actually pretty cool. So,
done in a way too, where I will say it doesn't feel hacky, like especially going back, but even at even when the movie's released, like the prequel trilogy, like the hokey is the word I was saying. Like the CGI just always looks so hokey. Whereas now, like what they're doing, they're using it smart. It's not an over incumbence on it. They're not relying upon it. Like young Yoda, baby Yoda, is constantly used as like a puppet. Like they're doing things in a way that make a lot of sense, practical effects, and then utilizing the technology in a way that does make sense.
There are certain parts, I guess.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, that feel a little hokey. Like there are parts with baby Yoda that feel a little hokey. Like he just seems stiff as a board, you know. Like whenever they pick him up and manipulate him and his face isn't shown and has to use CG for that. To me, that was a little odd. Yeah. And for the last episode, like you could definitely tell, but it wasn't, you know, It wasn't like, I guess, overly noticeable. Like it played very well. So
There's a great Twitter comment somebody asked, like, and this is, I guess, kind of a spoiler, John, not really, but it's like, do you think they keep those tiny little handcuffs in stock just in case?
Oh gosh.
Why would they put handcuffs on him?
It's so dumb. You figure it out later.
Yeah. But
Okay, so
I definitely recommend
my
everyone
top,
check it out.
yeah, absolutely. My top entertainment of the year actually comes closer to a draw than you would imagine, John. My big one I'm getting to in a second, but surprisingly enough, Man, a band of mine that I thoroughly enjoy, released a brand new album this year, and I have been doing nothing but listening to it nonstop since I found out. They released the album in May. I didn't find out until 3 weeks ago, but it has had such an impact on me because I have not fallen in love with like a musical album in quite some time.
Yeah.
And this is the first time in a while where I was like, man, I just want to consume this over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it really does move me in a way that I've not felt in a while. So there was some weird nostalgia on an album that I had only heard for the first time.
Little
really enjoyed it.
knowledge to put on you. Man is actually recorded inside of a psychiatric facility. That's all
There
it
you
is. They just put it into the main room and then record it and then give it a name and say that it's music.
I believe that the main band singer is Honus, and he's an interesting individual. The album is called Dream Hunting in the Valley of the In-Between. It's 17 tracks, and all of them are very bizarre, but more mellow Man than they've ever been.
Oh,
so.
hands down. Listen to some of the earlier stuff. You think they took, cocaine before they gave them the bills.
All I'm saying is that xylophone should be in more modern music.
What about the bike pedal? Come on, let's get the bike pedal.
The bike pedal as well. We should, yes. But my actual top entertainment of the year was definitely The Last of Us Part 2. The original Last of Us has such a profound impact on me from an art standpoint, from how I look at the world, how I look at personal relationships, how I look at games, how I look at a lot of things. It really, truly took my breath away in a way that nothing before it had ever done. And The Last of Us Part 2 had a lot to live up to it. And granted, I can see its flaws. I understand why some people truly don't like this game. But I think that despite not everything connecting perfectly in the same way that I think the first one's a little bit more succinct and clean on how it works. The second game is messy because the message in the story itself is messy. Like, all of it is supposed to be messy. You're wanting, like, the creators want you to leave really reeling and thinking about it. And we've talked about it before on the show, but I still won't forget, like, beating the game, watching the final cutscene and getting to the credits, and my wife coming in with just the glass of whiskey, because that's exactly what I needed in that moment. Tears streaming down my face, like, just thinking about what I had just gone through, what the characters had just gone through, everything, and how it had impacted me. And it's still something I think about often this year, especially this year with a lot of suffering and a lot of pain many people are going through.
Yeah.
Yep. So
I
don't
didn't
necessarily
affect me
think
that much. I mean, I was happy when I ended it, but I was like, at the same time, I wasn't that emotional about it. I was like, what's the next trophy?
I definitely went back and did that, but I am debating about maybe doing it over, probably not over the break, but early next year of going and doing a full playthrough of both games. So
there you go.
who knows?
I actually might go back and play Last of Us 1 because I did go
should.
through and play Last of Us 2 all the way through. Though I know the storyline and everything else, like, it's still one of those things where I'm like,
Doesn't matter.
I should play it.
It's so good. Troy Baker's just a national treasure.
I'm sorry, but he
that,
sung that Pearl Jam song better than I think
better
the
than
dude
Pearl
from Pearl
Jam.
Jam.
Yeah, 100%. I love Eddie Vedder. I had this conversation with numerous people, including our boy. That's what I'll say. I gotta give it better about this.
The ginger.
I mean, you could just
Not the ginger. I'm sorry. There's two. The other one, the curly-haired motherfucker I work for.
French fry.
There we go.
Codename French fry.
And we were both talking like Eddie Vedder hits hard on certain songs. That song is not one of them because Troy Baker as Joel is just incredible. Absolutely incredible. Used really well in the game too. Our next category would be the biggest whiff of the year. And I think we're going to go to the dispatcher for this one. Start us off.
Oh, come on. I had the easiest one, probably.
I know.
Okay. To be fair, I put my whiff of the year in first, which is why I got the easiest one. But come on, Cyberpunk 2077.
Are you eating food?
Yeah, I've been.
Are you eating food on this podcast we're recording right now? Are we interrupting your meal?
No.
Do you need time
I just want to put
eat?
out there was an entire podcast. I ate a box of Cheez-Its and no one knew.
That's because you hit it well. That's important.
I mean, you didn't know until now. I mean,
I've
had a couple forkfuls since we started this podcast. So,
Okay.
No, but Cyberpunk 2077, easiest whiff of the year. I mean, I would say that this fall is definitely harder than Anthem was last year. Because we talked about Anthem being the big whiff of last year. And like the difference is that Anthem didn't have PlayStation pull it from its store.
Yeah.
I wish they did.
That's pretty rough. Not to mention, EA didn't come out, and say, yeah, we're going to make sure everyone, gets full refunds if you want one and this, that, the other, without negotiating with your suppliers first. Like, come on, you guys are just digging the trench deeper by trying to sound better, and it's not going well. So CD Projekt Red
lying to people saying, "Oh yeah, this is going to be a great game for all consoles." No, it's not. You did not show what this trash looked like on regular consoles. Because if you did, no one would have bought it.
So much that they could have done better here. So much more that they could have done better here. And okay, so you guys would know better just because I don't know the developer well enough. What else has CD Projekt Red done?
Witcher 3, which is why they had so much. Yeah, they had so much cachet simply because people were like, "Oh, well, yeah, they're incredible. They supported this game. They did a really good job with it. They released DLC that made sense without it being too expensive." Holy shit!
And they've spent 8 years now building something that's supposed to be the next generation or the next benchmark game.
I think they're more afraid of their investors than they are anybody else. And I think based on previous conversations we've had, I think that is absolutely the truth, because they know damn well they're going to be like, "What have you been doing? Have you been lying to us?" Now that you're talking about like possible legal action.
Well, that's the problem whenever art collides with money like this. It is.
Yeah.
Sure, it needs to come out when it's ready. And us as gamers, it's easy
truthful. Just saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
being truthful needs to happen no matter what. But the problem is that without having the ability, I guess, to stall any kind of investor concern from the rip. Like realistically, the games that like CD Projekt Red is going to have a pretty big boom in whether it's stock price, whatever, like as soon as the game releases anyway, as long as it's done correctly. But the problem is if you're crunching and rushing and information's getting out, plus you release a game that is not fully finished yet, essentially. I mean, like the PC version looks great, but it's riddled with bugs.
Well, it has to be the highest graphics card that is hard to get a hold of currently.
Well,
in order to be that level.
There's a reason that they recommend lower settings for everyone, and the problem is that it's kind of a shtick with especially PC players to, I want to crank the settings to the highest settings I possibly can go and expect a good frame rate. But the problem is that on current gen graphics cards, and I'll say current gen, as in the 2080 series and the 1660s and those, because most people don't have their hands on 3000 series and 6800 cards yet, or AMD 6000 series cards yet. I will say those because those cards don't compare to the performance that's needed to be able to run it at full settings. Like, sure, I have, with some of the hardware that I have no doubt that I can run Call of Duty at near full settings. I can run Rocket League at full settings, and and that's part of the shtick there. But the issue is that if you come in with a 2080 Ti to Cyberpunk 2077, you can't do that. And the problem is that that's on the consumer, but they blame the developer for it, and I think that's a bad shtick to put in place.
2080 Ti, that one of the highest end of this previous generation, cannot handle that even on low end settings.
No, it can handle it on low end settings.
Oh, okay.
It can. Like my 2080 Super, for example, I could play on low ray tracing settings. But it's a shtick of PC players to want to crank them to the highest settings possible, and if you can't, based on last gen hardware,
it's a weakness.
It's a weakness of the players, to be honest. But
Design.
I can't help it. Full on.
but easily the biggest thing is riddled with bugs. Obviously was released too early. Built for last gen consoles, especially when the
Which
release
makes
date is
no
after.
sense.
Especially whenever you push the release date past next gen consoles, or I would say current gen consoles now. Like there's
Does
zero
anybody
reason.
else feel like they scrapped the project 4 years ago and just started up again?
So it's important to note when we talk about this game having started development 8 years ago, what they started was the prototyping phase because they were still technically working on Witcher 3 8 years ago. Like they had a small team that was prototyping and getting the desire for the game to get going.
Yeah,
And they also developed again DLC for The Witcher 3, so therefore majority of their development team, or I'd argue probably at least half, was working on that stuff.
Yeah,
then the
Witcher
full team came over.
And Witcher 3 was a massive undertaking. So I mean,
Yeah. It was the largest game they'd released up to that point. So I think it's still technically larger than Cyberpunk, though Cyberpunk has more unique assets.
It's over like 200 hours of content. Yeah. You got time to
I
burn.
would say that Cyberpunk's more technologically advanced whenever it comes to, or technologically,
of course,
demanding whenever it comes to the hardware, just because it understands like what's available now. So.
Yeah, it's super sad because it's pretty apparent that there's CD Projekt Red, the developers who have their own desires, like you said, the artists, so to speak, and then there's the people who run the actual company. And they run GOG too. That's the Good Old Games, which is their own store. Like they have all kinds of other things that they have their fingers in. It's just unfortunate that they're taking these typical, and I call them typical because they fucking are in this industry, these typical practices of treating their employees like shit and then pushing out a product and then all of a sudden apologizing for it.
Yeah.
It's like, had you just done the right thing the first time.
Gaslighting.
Yeah. Had you done the right thing the first time, problem would have been solved.
The one good thing I think that will happen out of this is that out of goodwill that they are getting refunds for this. I think I hope they do a re-release for consoles.
Yeah.
Make a big thing saying we fixed everything. Here's what it looks like. Boom, 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 boom. It's like, sorry about this. Please come back. I think people will. I think you'll see a lot of people coming back and buying the game later on. They already proven that they could fix things when it came to Witcher. I'm not all that worried about it at that point in time, but until that time comes, yeah.
As I guess one more point too, I guess on the note of like a re-release too, is the issue with having done a release now is sure, maybe you had to do an early launch and hope for the best because of your investor concerns. And, maybe your stock price wasn't doing that great or investors were starting to pull out or whatever the deal was, And the issue you run into though, is if you release a product that's not finished and ends up with bugs like this, and suddenly you have to do damage control. Sure, you've had a ton of income, but that immediately squalls. Like that just hard, or I'm sorry, stalls. That just hard stops it anywhere at a certain point because everyone says this is awful. So then, whenever the launch happens, anybody who sees the reviews that come out and says that this is awful, don't go and buy it. But then from that point on, it doesn't matter what you do. It was an awful launch. Nobody cares anymore. Look at Anthem. They fixed all the problems with Anthem, but nobody cares.
Well, they also didn't. They say they fixed the things, and then they're like, "We're going to redo the entire game now." And I'm like, "So I thought you fixed it."
Well, what they fixed was the technical issues, which is what was like screen tearing, game crashing, all that other stuff. The game fundamentally was just flawed. Like it's just not fun the way they built it. Like the fact that you can't just go into the open world to take on a mission and also explore the open world is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in an open world game. Makes no fucking sense to me.
I don't
know.
Well,
what was the whole thing of like you collect upgrades, but you can't apply the upgrades until you return home? Like what?
Correct. Yeah. All kinds of stuff.
Like that kind of thing. Like, but see, I think EA is probably making a better play there. If they're going to do that, it's either going to be re-released as a remastered later down the line when they've spent full time to take care of it, or it's going to be a sequel.
Yeah,
with a brand new storyline and everything revamped anyway from a functionality perspective.
They're better off taking the best parts that they found in this and then moving into
making a new game,
and just separating themselves from the fucking cluster that they created.
Kill Anthem, especially since the people behind it have left the company anyway.
It's such a cool name too. Like you had such potential with this. Like everything just felt good, and then they started showing us footage, and we're like, "Wait, what the?"
Speaking of such a miss, what about Marvel's Avengers by Square Enix this year, man? So this game was supposed to be a combination of this first-person action adventure game where you get to explore the aftermath of the Avengers falling apart, and then the other aspect being like Destiny, where you get to go online and play with your friends on these missions and have these loot drives and build yourself going. My God, what a miss. I mean, John, you were over here, I believe, when Alex and I were trying to play the beta. We got an hour into the beta, still couldn't play together with each other, had no clue when the beta actually ended, and just gave up because we weren't having fun. Like, straight up, just.
Yeah. We were doing something else. They're like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah, it's awful. And the game came out, my neighbor next door, and granted, I'm doing anecdotal evidence before we dive into the numbers, but like my neighbor next door bought the game, and then a week later, I was like, hey, do you want Last of Us 2? He's like, yeah, you can borrow Avengers. I'm not going to play it. Like I literally had it in my house, and he's like, I don't care how long you keep it. I think that was his way of telling me you can keep the game. It just was not great at all. So I wholeheartedly feel for the team. It's definitely apparent that the people in management positions wanted this to be one thing, whereas they were aiming for this single player experience. I've heard the story is incredible. It takes time to get into, 4 or 5 hours to really get to that point, but 4 or 5 hours of a 20-hour campaign, not really something I feel the need for. And obviously other people don't. The entire player base has also dropped off. There actually have been stories online of people who are taking 20 minutes to queue up to do the online stuff on PC because there's just not enough players.
Oof.
What a strange miss. I hope they can find something to do with it. I wouldn't necessarily do the Anthem route. I think a full-on sequel saying, hey, we're just going to make this one or the other, right? Destiny-like or straight-up action adventure game would be great. But poor who was it? It was oh my God, it's not IO Interactive. That'd be weird. NetherRealm Studios, the same people who made the Tomb Raider games. Like, they make great games, and Avengers has the capability of being a great game. It's not even hampered by its systems or by technology. It's mostly hampered by the fact that it appears some people got greedy and they made a weird amalgamation of a game that just doesn't make sense. Yeah.
It's unfortunate because it has so much potential, and they just squandered it.
You're talking about a multiplayer Avengers game in the year after Endgame? Like, how could, one, why did this not come out at Endgame? Development, get that. But two, like, why not wait for the next Avengers game? Like, make this game solid, put it off to the side and get it. I mean, I know it's a heavy investment, but work with Marvel in that regard. You got to work with them to license it anyways. Fuck it. But I digress. John, what's your whiff of the 2020?
Darksiders Genesis for me. The isometric camera was not what that game needed.
Could you explain what Darksiders Genesis is?
Darksiders Genesis is the 4th iteration in the Darksiders genre, where you are teaming up as Strife with War, and you're going to do whatever freaking mission. I don't remember what we were doing because we only played for like an hour.
Going to hell or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to hell to do some shit.
It's something dumb.
Which, I still plan on playing that game. I'm not going to necessarily drag you through that, but
you're going to drag me through it, aren't you?
Nope. I'm not going to do that to you, but I am interested to see if I can like move past because there are some games that do have a little bit of like a growing pain to them. So I'm going to see if I can get past that growing pain. If I can, then I'll let you know. But it's the isometric camera view, which is like, say you were looking at the back of my head, you would be looking at it at like a 45-degree angle, except about 15-20 feet back. And it's too much when you can't see, like, the way that they have enemies hiding around stuff, you can't even see your character. And then they do these awful platforming sections where your controls are hard. They change based on what you're doing, whether you're flying or while you're just trying to jump over a ladder type object, like you're jumping up a wall. And it's hard to aim. It sometimes decides to jettison you the other way if you just hold on just slightly too long onto the X button. And it's like, what's going on? And it's just, and then you get separated. It takes forever to get back to your partner if you were with one. Like, there's just so many quality of life parts of that game that I feel should have been fixed. Like, if something happened, you could just, auto track to your partner. That would make sense to me. Like, hey, I found this thing. Cool. Let me auto track to you. That would have been phenomenal in both like finding objects that you were looking for, whatever. There's just none of that was there. And, people compared it to Diablo, but I feel like Diablo was a better thought out layout of the levels of the game to match its viewpoint, whereas Darksiders Genesis didn't do that.
Yeah, well,
Very cool
the
idea, but I think it would have been a lot better off if they were to do something kind of like they did with Darksiders 1 and 2. And that camera angle with this would have been probably a lot better.
Yeah, it's taken, like, Darksiders has always been known for taking genres, combining them, and making cool shit, right? Like, Darksiders 1 took basically God of War, mixed it with Zelda, because you had this tougher combat scenarios with this deep exploration, a lot of fun. Darksiders 2 took the loot grind of something like Diablo, mashed it in with what was Darksiders 1, and made it expansive. And then Darksiders 3 seems to have taken a lot of the Soulsborne stuff, right? Making the battles more tough and checkpoints and all that.
Which I'm surprised
really
that a lot
cool.
of people didn't like that game. Like, I mean, as a light end Souls game, it feels good.
Yeah.
Like, it was enjoyable even for me to play, but sales weren't that great on it either.
Well, I think the Darksiders franchise just doesn't carry the same weight as they hope it does, which is sad because it could.
Yeah.
But when you have something like Genesis that just kind of slanders it, I can understand why some people are just kind of finicky of like, well, I liked one, but I don't really want to jump in the rest.
Camera, don't buy this game. Like, if you,
100%,
like, it is
100%.
true to what it is. I was thinking maybe it was like, maybe they got a weird setting on this or something, and it's just like maybe you could change the camera. No, you're stuck with it, and it's gonna be that way the whole time.
All right, time to move on to our next category, which is top news stories of the year. And I'll take this one first because I think the biggest news story of this year had to have been, especially in gaming, Microsoft buying Bethesda Studios for $7.5 billion. I mean, not only is this impacting what's going to happen to the Elder Scrolls Fallout series, like those two titanic franchises, but now Microsoft gets them on Game Pass day and date for all users. I mean, that is fucking huge.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What about you, John? What you got?
Mine was when Apple boots Fortnite off of the Apple Store, because not only has this was not just a blip on the radar, it has constantly hit our news in our cleanup, like probably almost at least every other week. There's something else coming on about it.
I mean,
the ramifications for this, the possible ramifications for this are huge.
Yeah.
And
up until Cyberpunk.
Until Cyberpunk took over the news waves.
Yeah, I mean, like Apple, I think has been in the news for a good chunk of our stories, whether it's product launches or antitrust lawsuits or Fortnite lawsuits, or what was the other company that jumped in with Fortnite? Oh no, I'm sorry. Never mind. Fortnite was going up against Android or Google too. Against the Android App Store, or the Play Store. But no, I mean, like that story right there, like booting Fortnite off the App Store was
backing them because of Game Pass.
Oh, that's right, because the game streaming issue too, because Apple booted game streaming apps off.
Yep.
But this was definitely the action that triggered everything else that's followed so far. And the last thing we've heard, just because it's been a little bit since we talked about it, is that we're not going to hear anything probably from a lawsuit or from a trial date until, or was it the federal judge estimated middle of next year, like June 21?
Yeah,
I think
it's
so.
Be a minute. Yeah,
it's going to be a little while before all of the preliminary litigation's done. Especially since there's not going to be a settlement. Obviously, they've already gone to a preliminary trial on it. So
yep.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh no, it's going to come to a head. I just don't think. I mean, I don't know.
It's going to be interesting. 2021 is going to be an interesting story for the Apple v Fortnite saga here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What about you, Mark? Biggest news stories?
Oh, come on, guys! Like easily, come on! Like, it started in March. The biggest story of 2020 and why it's been the biggest dumpster fire of a year has been the coronavirus.
Yep.
Never heard of it.
Oh, okay. Well, let me you need a cream. Let me bring you up to speed on what's happening here anyway. It's caused a lot of problems whenever it comes to shipping and production, because the origin of this virus originates from where we get most of our circuit boards from, and chip manufacturing, and a ton of our technology from, as well as most of the products that we import to the US. So the coronavirus has impacted technology greatly. And the link I put down in the document from the description below is actually a link back to an episode we did on March 3rd, kind of whenever all this started, going through each of the main supply problems anyway that were coming through. Like there were a ton from like Apple, already having manufacturing problems by that point and looking to return to normal, but obviously that didn't happen because there were tons of shortages. Google and Adobe canceling events, Overwatch League having to cancel its event in South Korea, like GDC canceling, Mission Impossible 7's recording, going on hold, like not to mention like tons of shops, tons of production plants had to go on hold anyway whenever it came to chip manufacturing. We're still seeing the ripple effect of that now.
1000%.
I mean,
we
like
will for a long time.
RTX 3000 and AMD chips are in general are of short supply right now because there just aren't enough being manufactured to out supply what's happening with scalping and like the supply issues are just kind of rampant. So coronavirus,
the
I
mailing
think
system is inundated right now with everybody trying to use it more now than they ever did.
Oh, and my dad being a pilot with FedEx has already said that like they're like some airplanes, some older airplanes they were looking to retire. Like to clarify, there's no safety issues here. They're being well maintained, but planes that they were looking to retire to replace with brand new airplanes, those retirements have been put on hold, and the new airplanes are still coming in because they have so much cargo to move that there are so many planes leaving fully loaded, ready to go, or fully loaded anyway, tons of, freight from Amazon or from USPS or from people shipping things, whatever it is, because the number of products being purchased online is astronomical this year.
I ordered something from Taiwan in October 27th, and it just now left Taiwan.
Yep.
Interesting.
I just got I was like, where is this thing? And I was like, I should have had it by now. And I was like, oh, it just cleared customs. Awesome.
Took me 4 weeks, I think, to get 2 different products I shipped from China. One being an LED, a couple of things of LED strips, and another one being like a box of cameras. So it really took quite a while for things to get through. But I mean, every shipping company, UPS, USPS, and FedEx from a US perspective anyway, are absolutely inundated with work right now.
As a wise man once said, everything made in Taiwan.
Yeah. No, it perfectly makes sense. I agree. That is easily probably the largest news story if you incorporate coronavirus and just how it affected our world this year.
Just coronavirus, period. Period. Not even considering just the technological impact.
We just go
everything.
The whole thing. Yeah. Time for the next category, which is our FOMO thing of the year, the thing we were so afraid of missing out on and did miss out on. So talk to us, Dispatcher. You seemed like you want to talk.
Ooh, Call of Duty Cold War.
Call of Duty Cold War.
Easily the biggest thing. So, okay. I have been working on a development project on the side here. And the other thing too is I guess after the last Call of Duty with, I played Modern Warfare. I played Modern Warfare for a good little while there, and I played Warzone for a little bit. And I kind of put them down after a little while. So I got out of sync with the updates and everything like that. Now I've been working on a development project. But Cold War just dropped, which is a Treyarch product, not an Infinity Ward product like Modern Warfare was. So Treyarch product, of course, is going to have a proper zombies mode. And our Discord, the Strange Gaming Discord, has been blowing up with people jumping in to play multiplayer, play zombies, whatever, on Cold War. I haven't even purchased the game yet to even have tried the multiplayer version. I've so far seen probably a collective maybe 15 minutes of a live stream of the game, and that's all of my understanding of it so far.
Yeah. I take breaks from Call of Duty. Like I go into waves. So I usually will buy one every now and then. And I had bought Modern Warfare, so that's where I stayed for the longest time. Then I got bored and I was like, Cold War, there's just not enough here that I've seen that draws to me. And a lot of people are saying they like it, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I get so burnt out now.
Modern Warfare was sort of my re-entry back to Call of Duty since I think the first Black Ops game. I think that was my first re-entry into it. But I figured I would be, especially with the production side of things. Granted, we've been a little out of touch with video game production in a while, and I just haven't had a real drive, I guess, to play it because of other focuses and things going on. So
All I'm saying is you guys are missing out on the best Call of Duty, which is Advanced Warfare with Kevin Spacey. Timeless classic, totally hasn't aged bad at all.
I actually liked Advanced Warfare, not for the
I did
Kevin
too.
Spacey part. I mean, that was cool at the time. Cool. But
was very cool
I
at the time.
enjoyed the
See-
jetpacks. I used those to my advantage, and everyone hated it. If you were
See,
able to be spatially cognizant of your position and like what you were doing, you were going to get destroyed every time.
See, I got lost with jetpacks. I just couldn't do it.
Other fun fact, in the zombie mode for Cold War, you can pet the zombie dog. Moving on to Handsome John, what is your FOMO for the year?
Actually, mine is Mandalorian. I didn't jump on the bandwagon when I should have, and now I got to play catch up. But
Yes, you do.
I'm still playing catch up because
Yes,
I
you
just
do.
got done watching All the Boys.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
definitely
no, that's- I haven't
regretted
caught up
not
with that
watching
yet.
that sooner. Oh my god,
God, The Boys is so good.
it's so good.
I haven't seen the new
Um,
season
dude.
yet.
Oh, you need
Oh.
to. Boy, oh
Oh.
boy, oh boy.
Boy, oh boy, you got to watch The Boys.
Yeah, boy. But
My-
Mandalorian sounds like it's a fun time, and listening to everybody talk about it, like I've never heard. I think I've heard like maybe one or two negative things that are super super light on what I call negative.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to another good show. And a lot of people that I know aren't Star Wars fanatics and still enjoyed it, which is who I am. So
Perfect. I think you'll like it a lot. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Agreed.
For me, it's actually Cyberpunk 2077. Is the emotional roller coaster of this game because I totally understand that it's broken, it has issues, it's not great. It's the reason why I'm not playing the game. But when I hear people talk about the cool instances they find deeper in the game, when they've gotten past some of the bugs, or they're able to kind of get past the graphical fidelity and they can just enjoy it, the things they talk about sound incredible. Like they sound like this could have been the game that they were promising. Now, these are small glimpses. I am not in any way trying to trivialize the issues behind this. But if we're truly talking about like what I wish I had experienced and haven't experienced this year, it definitely is Cyberpunk.
yeah,
And
I almost agreed with you because I was like, everybody's so hype on this, and I'm just like, well, I'm kind of want to be like, I'm not
Yeah.
one to always want to be in on the conversation, but I felt like this game was going to be one that you should be. And then
I
they let
was-
us down. I was like, whoo, I missed that.
Well, I was super hyped about it whenever we saw it back at E3. But then the game launched, and even like in our Discord anyway, with like a bunch of our groups just talking about how terrible the experience has been, I guess, of playing it and setting it up and dealing with bugs and whatever else, I think easily the best one is the fact that apparently some character animations have gone missing, which means that all the characters are like straight up T-posing.
Oh yeah,
Whenever they're walking around and talking to you, but they're T-posing. But like it was a FOMO for me of like, damn, this was supposed to be the hottest game of the year, and I straight up missed out on it, and then I heard about all the bugs, and I was like, maybe I didn't miss anything good.
That's fair.
My favorite thing is watching someone made Cyberpunk 2077 in dreams with
Yes.
PlayStation 1 graphics. And I was like,
It's
this
so
is like
good.
Duke Nukem. This is great. You should have just done it this way. And said it was on purpose.
Somebody called it Cyberpunk 1997, and I was like, "This is great. That's the perfect line for that." Moving on from our FOMO, I think it's time to discuss the biggest what the fuck of the year.
Yeah.
John, what you got?
Just in general, trying to buy the new consoles and the new graphics cards for PCs. I never thought that there would be such a clusterfuck in both realms of gaming
Yeah,
that could ward against each other. Between PlayStation 5 going out and saying, we're going to have this lottery system that really we don't even know how it works yet. So we're just going to randomly tell people, hey, by the way, come to the store and buy shit. And then while we're in the middle of a podcast, all these stores day beforehand just decided to release all of their product to try to get the edge on. I'm like, what, you worried you weren't going to sell it? Like,
thank you,
it's-
Canada.
it's
Walmart.
one-
It was Walmart.
I would say it's one hell of a release whenever we're in the middle of recording. We've had to take 2 breaks because Brent's had to keep up with his orders the entire time, and the second break was finally like, Walmart's got 2 available. I'm ordering them right now, and we take a break for it.
Yep.
I mean,
100%.
it's super sad. Not to mention all the scalping issues that we had
Oh.
with both the consoles and the graphics cards. The graphics card now, PlayStation has had its hiccups with the new hardware. All new hardware does, but nothing had the biggest hiccup than the graphics cards. On top of it, having all lines of the NVIDIA product having issues because of them using too many pause caps, I think is what it was.
Well, so that was a power delivery issue, and
Yeah.
technically the minimum spec was met. It just wasn't stable enough. What was needed, I guess. So
broke is broke, bro.
well, they fixed it with a firmware update. You just had to take a performance hit.
That sounds
Not
like
good.
not something
not
you
good
bought the card
regardless.
for.
not good regardless. So,
but you know, with buying what you trying to get a hold of them was hard enough, and then having issues with the ones that people were able to get a hold of, and then dealing with scalpers who are gatekeeping your shit for 2 or 3 times the amount that it's actually worth, and it's just been a rough year with the pandemic. Everybody's just trying to figure out the things they love and build off of that, and then you have someone else just shit on your parade. That is definitely what the it's not
that's
what
definitely
I've seen.
That's definitely the heartbreaker, right? Is like so many people have been trying to like get a hold of this just to have some sort of joy or enjoyment in their life in a tough fucking year, and it's a bunch of people, on top of the technical issues, just a bunch of people being shitty. Like, oh, I'm going to sell it for 3 times the price. Well, fuck off.
Yeah.
Do not buy scalped. Please, please. We have to reiterate: do not buy scalped.
We've gone over scalp products a ton. If you don't be the market for it, then there is no market for it.
Mm-hmm.
Easy enough.
100%. Speaking of graphics cards, Mark, what's your what the fuck story of the year?
Speaking of scalping and being fucking ridiculous, MSI apparently had a subsidiary or a contractor or something. Now, this wasn't even actually come to think of it, this wasn't a story we'd actually talked about, because it was something I was going to present as my important back a while ago.
I thought we did talk about it.
We had talked about it, I think, amongst ourselves, but it was not part of the show itself. It was something brief that we had mentioned beforehand. But
brief, that's what she said.
MSI had a subsidiary or a contractor, whatever it was, I guess, that was responsible for selling refurbished cards, get a hold of some 3080 and 3090 cards, and then proceeded to scalp them themselves. A direct supplier or direct sales company from the supplier, from the manufacturer, was scalping cards. I get it. Like, this is what the market price dictates, and your only responsibility is to sell on eBay, but Christ, you know better than this.
Correct.
And MSI just straight up wrote it off to say, oh, yeah, no, this was just, a supply issue. They weren't supposed to get the cards and all that stuff. In such a time whenever the supply on these things is so limited, and when I guess it's so crucial for you as a company from a profit perspective to make sure that every card is sold correctly.
If I've learned anything in 2020 is that these companies don't watch a fucking thing that they do.
Seriously, but like why?
100%.
But like, why consoles, the graphics cards to games? It doesn't matter. These people just flying by the seat of their pants.
Yeah, I mean, but at that point, why would you not have the closest eyes on your products, especially like being the hottest one of the hottest products that had released up to that point? Because the AMD cards didn't release until or didn't even get announced or to release anyway, at least until like 3 or 4 weeks after the RTX series cards did. So at that point, you didn't have real competition at that point. So why wouldn't you have like a fucking Hawkeye vision on every single bit of product that's out there? And if it's sent to the wrong place, somebody really royally effed up, and you need to write it up. You need to give us more than just, oh, it was a shipping issue or a supply issue or something. Get out of here.
Who talked about it after that? No one, but us.
Mark, I want to say that whenever you censor yourself on a topic like this, I don't believe your anger.
Thank you.
don't
Thank you.
believe your
That's what we
anger.
do.
He just doesn't want to do any more editing than he has to. Smart man.
There's a reason why the numbers are skewed so that you guys are like 3 times each, by the way, 3 times the number of curse words that I have in here.
It's almost like we tried to give you more work. Yeah, no, that was really fucked up, that whole story. I cannot believe
damn
that.
you.
My biggest what the fuck of the year is definitely Among Us rising to fame 2 years after release. Because
I agree.
many people don't understand that the game actually came out 2 years ago. This 4-team dev team from Seattle throwing this game together, and what amazing like momentum it took up this year. Ironically, and I don't know if it was because of Fall Guys or not, but after Fall Guys, like Fall Guys came out, seemingly was the big hit, and then everyone seemed to jump on the Among Us train. I mean, so much so they won 2 awards at the Game Awards. They also announced their brand new map. The brand new map's coming out in 2021. They just released a Switch version. The Xbox version is coming out next year. I assume a PS4, PS5 version's right behind them. Like, they're going to be killing it, hopefully over the course of the next year. But what a great story to watch these 4 devs get their game really out there. And not just out there. I mean, our entire community was taken over for a while by Among Us.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like,
If
my
people
younger
would have
brothers
with
didn't
you,
ever
we'd
buy
still
it.
be playing.
It still happens. It still happens by occasion now. Anyway, like where we'll jump in for a meeting or something like that. It's like, hey guys, you want to play Among Us? Yeah, sure. It's great. Let's get a little lobby together. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Just kill Tumbleweed.
Yes, kill Tumbleweed. That's all you have to do. Yes.
Or
you should always kill in real life too.
if you're Crystal, if you're Queen Crystal, you've got to kill Squeezins. You got to kill Travis.
The thing that was pretty interesting about the whole Fall Guys and Among Us thing is Fall Guys really helped Among Us actually stay relevant, even in like the Twitterverse. It made it spread even faster and more because of the comparison stuff that people were doing and the moshes they were doing of Fall Guys and Among Us, where they would like do weird ass art, but it was really cool stuff.
Cool.
Well, I would actually say that like the content creator, the content creator stuff, the YouTube videos, the Twitch streams of Among Us
100%.
content blew up. Like the biggest, like I've talked about him on the podcast before anyway, like Disguised Toast I've watched. He averages like 3 to 8 million views per video that he releases on a daily basis since August.
We had AOC, a sitting congresswoman, come on and play Among Us. Like, there you go. Like that's a barrier of success I don't think any other game has reached so far. So
it's a barrier that congressmen have never reached so far. It's definitely like it's full on shenanigans, which is what makes it fun. Everybody's doing their thing, and you either do something and you get caught, and you're like, I didn't do it.
It's a good friendly game of betrayal.
Yeah,
there you go. Yeah. All right, moving on to our next category is our most overrated thing of the year. And I think I'm going to take this one first because I'll be really quick about it. It's Cyberpunk 2077. Oh my god!
It's weird. It's like we just talked about that.
But you have FOMO.
I laughed.
How can you have FOMO for something that's overrated?
It's almost like I have conflicted feelings about this game. No,
so does everyone else.
Yeah. I do believe it's less with the game and more about the hype train that came around it. Like by the time the game launched, I breathed a sigh of relief just to not fucking hear people talk about how this is going to be the most incredible game ever made. It's going to trump Tetris, and it's going to make sure that nobody ever talks about Fortnite or Call of Duty ever again. Shut up, nobody cares.
I'll slit your throat if you talk shit about it again.
It totally had the potential to do so, but it didn't go the Grand Theft Auto 5 route of, hey, let me make sure the game's correct and released properly before we go with it. But,
yes,
I'm just saying, like, the reason I'm excited for Returnal is because people aren't like,
blowing it
out of proportion. I'm like, this is gonna be a good game.
Returnal looks great. No, I mean, I think word of mouth is important, but I also think that it gets to a point where it's ridiculous, right? We talked about it before, how we had journalists coming on describing how the game gives epileptic seizures and then being attacked by a fan base for something that they skewed as negative. Like she even said, I'm enjoying the game. I just wanted to let people know because I had a seizure, therefore others can have a seizure. Like that level of complete craziness was not only disgusting, but it totally turned me off to the point where like I could care less about Cyberpunk for so long.
Yeah.
So overrated for sure. What about you there, handsome Joan?
Mine is actually the new console generation. I think that right now, considering what they're capable of, I feel, I mean, obviously outside of the DualSense itself, but I feel like the consoles just are not where they need to be considered as big as that people are making them out to be. Oh, I got the reason it's so big is because of the limited amounts that are available. That's why this was a thing. If there was quite a large amount of PS5s available, I do not believe that people would be nearly as excited for this console generation as of right now because of what is available for it. I think it will be later on down the road and with its capabilities, especially with the DualSense. But I do feel like it's not for what it's doing now, it is overrated, but I don't think it will be in the future.
I think the people would still be excited up through Christmas because it's new. It's a new toy.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, like by January, 5th, everybody like, all right, cool, got PS5, whatever.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Attention spans of goldfish, baby.
I will say I personally think that the loading of everything alone is all I needed in life. Like it could look the same as PS4 as long as it loads as fast as it could. John, I'm looking at the document. I want you to know this. John, it's over a thing.
For those who obviously can't see the document, which is everybody, John's doing some weird stuff.
Yeah, he's just typing bukkake over and over again like a fucking toddler.
Oh gosh.
What about you there?
There's actually notifications
dispatcher?
now of when someone makes
I think I have probably the biggest overrated thing, of the year anyway, whenever it comes to console sales or graphics cards or processors or any tech, that you've really tried to want. In-stock notifications. Let's see. Is the RTX 3080 in stock? Let's see. It's available, or it's not available for pre-order. It'll launch here in about 3 seconds. Refresh. Out of stock.
Thank you.
I want to buy a PS5. Well, let me open up 5 sites and then try to figure out where it's available. Out of stock. Out of stock. Out of stock. Out of stock. Out of stock.
Better yet, just refresh continuously, and eventually you'll get in. Maybe.
It's gotten to the point now, like bots and the scalping through bots has gotten so ridiculous now that there are bots out there to try to identify when a product comes back in stock. Fun fact, there's a YouTube channel called Fix It that has a live stream running of a Linux terminal with in-stock notifications for the AMD RDNA 2 processors, the 5000 series processors, the R9, R7, whatever, 5000 series processors, and the RX 6000 series processors, and the RTX 3000 series GPUs. I'm sorry, the RX 6000 series GPUs. But there's a YouTube channel that is just been live streaming for like a couple weeks straight now of just a Linux terminal of whether or not it's in stock or out of stock, and it shows the rolling log of every website it checks for every single graphics card, every single processor that's available, and whether or not it's in stock. That is how bad this is. In-stock notifications from sellers, from suppliers, is easily the most overrated thing of the year because they can tell you it's in stock because it may have just gone in stock like 3 seconds ago, but guess what? 2 seconds after that notification sent out, it's already out of stock again. Doesn't matter.
It's just so sad because, again, like the only reason you even need those things is just to play Cyberpunk and maybe Horizon Zero Dawn. That's about it right now. Everything else is playable.
And Microsoft Flight Sim.
Yeah.
If you want to hit full
And
graphics
Crysis.
on Microsoft, if you want to hit full graphics on Microsoft Flight Sim, you need a 3000 series card.
I've also heard that getting like the gear for the full flight setup, right? If you want to get like the stick and all that, it's taken some time.
The hardware's been out of stock for the good hardware anyway. Yeah.
So, alrighty, moving on to our biggest win of the year, right? Overrated all the way to the big stuff. Thanks, John. You're so fucking dumb. We're trying to do a show, for crying out loud. If we bore you that much, maybe you should just leave the podcast.
Ooh,
biggest win of the year. John, why don't you take it first? Since you want to talk so badly, you want to type and write
I mean, come on. If you really want to say it so badly, just start your whole thing with Bukkake, as your biggest win of the year.
Bukkake beats Xbox sales again. No, the biggest win this year is PS5 outbeating Xbox again. We kind of saw it coming, but it was interesting to see it kind of like really flourish. Though, and then again, I would say that Xbox is also selling out, so they're doing well. But PS5 definitely seems to have the edge over Xbox. With the DualSense controller, I feel like that's what's really going to
the special
differentiate the two consoles and really push different games for that console specifically. Or it will just it'll be left in the dust because people aren't going to care about it. It'd be really interesting to see that happen.
Yeah, I agree.
But it kind of reminds me of how Nintendo kind of really went out for the reach for the Wii remote, where not everybody was asking for it, but at the same time, like, this is something that is really cool. Now, is it going to become boring after a few months, or are people going to find some really cool innovations to put it into games and keep it relevant? We'll find out.
See, especially if developers can actually use the DualSense in a similar fashion as the Wii, I think that, you will be selling like crazy, because the Wii is like stupid with the amount of sales it made off of grandmas and grandpas who were just like, I want to play tennis. So, but if you can find a way to replicate
Wii
that,
bowling, man.
Or bowling or whatever.
I'm interested to see what you can do with it with a PC perspective too, because if that's an available controller, to run wirelessly to your computer, I mean, hell, I'll buy one right away. I think the design looks great, and if it's got extra functionality over top of the Xbox Elite 2 controller I've got over here, hell yeah.
It's cheaper than that controller too. What about you, Mark? What's your biggest win of the year?
Biggest win of the year. Easily it's got to be Apple Silicon on Macs. I think that the M1 chip opened up a new era for Mac and has opened up sort of a new era for computing as well, to the point that other companies are starting to follow suit. Google is now looking at developing its own silicon that is probably going to be ARM based as well. Microsoft is doubling down now on their ARM Windows solution, as well as their ARM to x64 converter, which is similar to Apple's Rosetta, so that you can run Windows on new Mac devices. I think they've really caused sort of a shift in PC computing space whenever it comes to processors. He went on mute again.
I don't know why that happens.
I keep doing
He's
that.
He's got a foot tap thing that puts him on mute, and he keeps tapping. He gets all excited down there. He's like, oh God.
Anywho,
it's almost like when you make it so easy for you to do it, you just inadvertently
do it by accident.
No,
but easily they've caused probably the biggest rift in the computing space in a while whenever it comes to that, because like ARM processors haven't been a big deal for a while, but or have been a big deal whenever it comes to like small computing space, like mobile phones and Raspberry Pis, small PCs, that kind of thing. Linux has always been pretty supportive of it. But this is the first time that we're seeing the two biggest OSs, Mac OS and Windows, really start to focus on it and really start to look at ARM in a very proper fashion. And not to mention, this also puts Apple in a position where end to end you're getting Apple hardware. It drops Intel, which is great because Intel's kind of been fallen off the wagon now for the past 2-3 years. So it's really beneficial for them, and it's really changing the space. So I'm really excited to see it.
I am very excited to see what that actually has to do with our future as well. I think the biggest win of the year, honestly, has been game streaming in a way that I didn't quite expect. I bought PlayStation Now this year, and on the PS4, it worked fine. On the PC, it worked well. On the PS5, it's incredible. Like, I actually am super excited and will more than likely continue my subscription into next year, only because, one, with how the sharing works on the various consoles, it becomes a little frustrating when I'm trying to play a game downstairs in my wife's PS5 because it's set to a different PS5, and therefore I can just hop into streaming and go, cool, I'm going to check this game out. All right, cool, I like this game. I'm going to keep playing this game. Oh, this game sucks. All right, well, I'm just going to drop it. Like, it is worked in a way that I could not really, it's not that I couldn't fathom. It's just like I never thought of it. Like, oh, I could just play games this way because it's never been an actual way to do so in the same way that Netflix is. I also fall into the same holes where I like build a wish list or whatever. I'm like, oh, I want to play these games, and I just add them on the list, and then I never play them in the same way that I add shows to Netflix all the time on my watch list and never actually do anything with them. But I think it was great. I mean, finding out that Cyberpunk 2077 runs almost the best on Stadia, hilarious. They're trying to fix their own stuff going on. Amazon launching Luna, their own streaming service. Ubisoft putting themselves on every streaming service.
Which you still haven't tried Luna yet, have you?
So my subscription, the window closed. So I had the beta and I was like, oh, I need to check it out. And then I had personal things happen that week.
We would have had a personal review here, except somebody decided to slack off.
Instead, you get a personal review on PlayStation Now. But no, I think game streaming surprised me on how adaptive it's becoming, and I'm truly excited to see where it goes in the future. Because if I truly can just like bring my laptop down to my dad's and play the games I want to play, or bring my phone with a controller, I'm all in. Let me do it.
Got it.
And finally, for the top thing of the year, an hour into this podcast, per usual. Why don't you hit us up first there, Dispatcher? Talk to us.
Easily my top thing of the year has got to be AMD and all of their top releases for the year, which is RDNA 2 and Zen 3. RDNA 2 being the RX 6000 series graphics cards, and Zen 3 being the R3579 5000 series CPUs. First off, RDNA 2 has put them in comparable range with NVIDIA for the first time, and I think it's 8 years. Like this actually brings competition to the space for GPUs. And this is really the first time that they've sort of doubled down in a space they can really compete. Not to mention they're introducing technology that allow them to compete much more competently than they used to. And Zen 3, Intel's actually been dethroned.
Yeah.
The new 5000 series CPUs, like the RX or the RX 5950X or R9 5950X from AMD this year, is really opted to be the best single core and multi-core processor you can get. Period. Like it outperforms Intel in every gaming scenario now from a single core performance perspective, and it offers more cores than Intel does. Not to mention it's run on a lower nanometer size transistor than Intel is capable of producing right now, because TSMC is able to produce down to 7 nanometers right now. And they're already talking about 5 nanometers when Intel is still on a 14 nanometer process and has not quite figured out how to get past that point yet, until apparently the new 11th gen Intel CPUs are supposed to come out next year and be announced at CES. But they're only going to 10 nanometers. They're not going below that yet. And TSMC and AMD are already talking about 5 nanometers.
Yeah.
We're approaching AMD and TSMC together are looking at approaching the theoretical limit of what you can do with silicone.
Yeah.
Past this point, they're going to have to move on to a new material. And Intel still hasn't caught up to that yet, even though AMD has been doing it now for 3 years.
Little do you know, they gave up on silicon and they're already on the next thing.
I could only hope that would only make the space that would only make the competition even better for the space. But
I agree.
That would
if that's the case, they've been super hush about it.
Well, yeah, why wouldn't they? Because I mean, that's leading the industry at that point in time.
There's usually leaks about something, but like I'll agree that
they diapers, but they shouldn't be leaks in business.
You wear a diaper?
My diaper.
We're learning all kinds of new things about John every day.
Change my diaper.
Change my diaper.
Oh my god.
What you don't know is the new material is actual foreskin. John, what is your top thing of the year?
Not foreskin.
It's not foreskin. All right. Well, that's one thing removed. What else can we remove?
It's definitely been the DualSense controller, hands down. It has been such an interesting ride with the PlayStation 5. I know that I've said it was the overrated console, but I'm not including the controller with it. It's two separate things to me. Okay. So with playing Astrobot, you're, shooting arrows, you're pulling on things, like the sound coming out of the controller and hearing and feeling the difference in vibrations and going from things like sand and water and ice and feeling the difference between like sliding on ice and skating on ice with the sound effects just really brings about a very cool sense of immersion for playing the game, which I had a really fun time playing. Like, it was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. But the controller in itself it feels so good. It's got longer legs. It feels more comfortable in my hand. I don't feel like it's cramping as much as it was with the PS3 and PS4 controllers. Though I'd say I got more comfortable with it over time, but I just think my hand just forms to it now. It just doesn't stray from that. It does this crab thing.
It's generally called carpal tunnel.
I'm trying to probably right. There's like this muscle right here on my thumb that it just gets so big because I'm like, just
generally called carpal tunnel.
Just working it out
you might want to talk to a doctor about that.
I don't think the controller is causing the problem.
I don't think so either. But oh no. The controller was obviously, to me, like just one of the best innovations I've seen happen in gaming in a long time. VR was cool when it came out, and it was kind of gimmicky and still kind of is in a lot of ways. I want to see them improve upon it over time. But this, I feel like, could really help with the immersive aspect of games, which is something that is needed. It's something we want, but it wasn't something that they could really figure out how to bring to you until now, which was kind of cool. And also opens the doors up for a lot of other stuff down the way too. Like haptic feedback suits, so you can feel like when you get shot. Like Call of Duty.
When you're being jerked off.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, come on, porn industry, you're missing out.
Carpal tunnel.
You got this.
Carpal tunnel simulator.
Popping off of yours, John. I agree. The PS5 is up there for me, along with DualSense. DualSense is definitely the innovation here. I mean, the way Astrobot feels walking from like sand to hardwood to ice, like you were describing, like is just so incredible, to the point where my father, who doesn't play video games at all, like I put the controller in his hand and he didn't want to let it go. Like I was like, hey, you can hand that back anytime you want. He's like, no, I'm skating on ice right now. Like I want to do this. So I was like, that is just so cool to see him get enveloped in it. Yeah. But honestly, I understand the argument for the new consoles being overrated. I still think the PS5 for me has been incredible. Being able to dive into a bunch of older games a little bit faster. And I mean a little bit, they're not that much faster. But PS Now working the way I always imagined it would, which is, hey, you're streaming a game and it streams, it runs, it's not interrupted every 5 seconds, and there's no stuttering and there's no delay on your controls. Holy shit, this is amazing. Being able to also like utilize the features of the PS5, the activity cards and stuff to pick up trophies. I want to see more of this. Obviously, this is still new. They're changing it over time, but man, like that and driving into Valhalla for the first time this year and being like, oh man, fast travel takes 5 seconds. I can't go back now. I just can't.
Ghost of Tsushima, to be fair, was the first person that introduced us to this.
It was fast. You're not wrong. But
man, it was sexy fast.
But that is it for our tops of the year. It's a total of 8 categories. If you feel like answering them, you can leave that in the comments section floating directly above Mark's blank wars. We're not going to say it out loud because they'll copyright this video and then we'll never be able to actually get it on the air.
Rats Wars.
Rats Wars. There you go. Rats Wars. Nothing but Rats Wars. But now I think it's time for last call.
You can't say the word? Jesus.
It was a joke. It was a joke.
I was about to say, I was like, good God, they need to fix this.
Last call.
Last call.
Last call.
Last call.
Last call.
No. Mark broke up in the middle of that, and then John was just like, ah! You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. As you can tell, we're tired. It's been a long year. It's been a dumpster truck on fire. You all know, you've been there. But of course, we are still in our quarantine bunkers thanks to COVID, drinking our special guests. I have with me some delicious Southern Comfort eggnog, because this is the eggnog you should buy in store. Southern Comfort
Yes.
branded. It's non-alcoholic, but it is absolutely delicious. The best eggnog out there. I mix some with a little bit of Old Forester for some delicious bourbon and eggnog. And then I'm sipping on.
Can I make a weird suggestion?
I'm ready.
Fireball makes a cinnamon eggnog that's actually very good.
Really? I'd be
Yeah.
willing to try it if you bought it. And I get a sip.
Already tried it. Very good. So
I need a sip.
I'll have to get some for you. Yeah.
All right, that sounds good. What about you, John? What are you drinking?
I was drinking whiskey, then I ran out. So now I'm drinking this Bywater.
What about you, Mark?
He's so toasted he doesn't know what he's drinking. I got me a nice shaker full of some kamikaze. We didn't have any eggnog left because I drank it all. So I decided I was going to do a kamikaze, which is, if it was my first drink, it's 2 parts vodka, 1 part triple sec, half part lime juice. Instead, the rest of it is 1 part vodka, 1 part triple sec, and half part lime juice. So I kind of goofed up with my first batch there. So
I think it made you looser for the show. So
it's something, yeah.
Of course, feel free to join us our Discord. As we were discussing, everyone's playing various games, including what we were talking about. Oh my god, my brain is like so fried. And Google Docs changed how they edit
Call of
things.
Duty Cold War.
I fucking hate it. Call of Duty Cold War. Thank you. But yes, you can jump in there, have some conversations. Of course, the end of the year is upon us, so if this is not the time, completely fine. You can always come in at a later date.
Enjoy the holidays with the people that you enjoy spending the holidays with.
Absolutely. But when you're ready, you can come in and have a good time. Right, John? You can come in, you fucking toddler. Jesus. Weekly deals. We have the Humble Winter Indie Mix Bundle. This is a great little bundle gathering together a bunch of smaller indie games to end your year on. Once again, this bundle is available for $25 total. I'm sorry, $10 total. This is the cheapest bundle I have ever seen. So if you pay $1, you get Deponia, the complete journey line, which is actually pretty cool, and then Butcher. If you pay the average, which is only $5.05, you get Cat Quest, which is very enjoyable, and Felix the Reaper along with Feather. And then for $10, you also get Armello and Cryofall. This supports the charity for Cure for Cancer, but if you don't like curing cancer, feel free to do whatever you want. There's multiple charities. You can come in there and change it around, and you can decide what money goes where. It's one of the reasons why we love Humble Bundle.
Oh, yeah.
For some cool ass shit, somebody has modified an SNES cartridge so that it can get ray tracing to work on a Super Nintendo.
So dope.
It is one of the coolest things I saw this year period, and I had to include it this week for sure.
Oh, don't give NVIDIA more fuel for the fire, okay?
And finally, the question of the week. Handsome John, you're the one who came up with this, so why don't you go ahead and read it out to us?
Will do. Question of the week. With New Year's around the corner, I decided that since we're not going to be having really anything going on for the New Year's, what would you change to better yourself for the New Year? What would it be? What would you change for or to yourself?
My selection in Castmates as they fucking edit the article with stupid ass shit. That would be my change.
How
about you guys?
Yourself, not others. Yourself.
My selection in Castmates. There we go. That's what I'm changing about myself.
Have better friends. Okay. Yeah. Let's move on. Marcus.
Oh God.
No, ultimately for me, well, Mark, thanks. It's I need
you don't get a turn off. You just got done bashing us. You lost your turn.
I need to get one better about my exercise routine this year. I was off and on pretty hard, especially with COVID. And some months are better than others, and that's fine. That happens to everyone, but I need to be better about it. And in general, better about differentiating my hobbies. I love video games, but I don't want to be only about video games. Like I have this house, there's stuff I need to do around here. As the winter months came along, I noticed I was putting stuff off to the side to just sit there and play, mostly out of exhaustion as the year was ramping down and holidays come around. But I need to be better about differentiating. I do enjoy programming. There's some projects I'd like to do. I need to get on them, such as Mark,
Stop being a lazy bitch.
Correct.
I'm just saying, if you want a project to jump on,
everybody can deal with not being a lazy bitch. I think that everybody's New Year's revolution should kind of
Revolution
Gravity
or resolution?
Resolution.
Sounds like revolution.
New Year's resolution.
Revolt.
Revolt.
No, for me, Brent, I definitely fall along the same lines with you. To some extent, I definitely from the, I guess, care for myself physically hasn't quite been there, especially since COVID hit. I would say even a little bit before that too, because a lot of my job sort of transitioned to a work from home most of the week perspective. You know, like I was probably home 5 days a week and only going to the office 2 days a week. So it definitely hasn't gotten better, or it definitely hasn't improved itself, you know, over the past bit, and that's solely because I have not put in the same effort, you know, respect.
I can't wait for you keyboard jockeys to try to put your pants back on, thinking you're going to go right back to work and go, "Oh, these don't fit me." Surprise!
I'm going to Mississippi for Christmas here, and I have a pair of jeans that I packed that I don't know if they'll fit correctly or not. So we'll find out. It's like it's rolling the dice, you know. We'll see what happens.
Sweatpants, baby.
Oh, I got plenty of sweatpants. That's fine. No, but I think the biggest thing I would probably change to better myself for the new year would be some of the content consumption that I do. I have a pretty big affinity to consuming YouTube content. And almost to a degree that I like, there's a certain point where I want to consume more YouTube content, but YouTube keeps recommending the same things back to me because either I've already watched it, I've already watched it from the things that are based on my recommendation or my profile, or it's something old that I haven't seen from a particular YouTube channel or content creator. Which definitely tells me that I have gotten to a certain point where the routine of content creators that I watch and content that I consume is kind of getting excessive, maybe to a certain point, and I probably should cut back on that.
You beat the internet.
That's fair. That's fair.
Like it got to the point where whenever, you know, the content creator of the year was announced for VGAs, I was like, oh yeah, Valkyrie, yeah, she definitely deserves it out of the like 10 other content creators that I watch on a pretty regular basis.
I want to get into YouTube viewing a little bit more because I don't use it. Yeah, I don't utilize it at all. It's pretty much a free product that I could actually like make like watch list for it, and I rely on Brent to be like, "Hey, this is cool." I'm like, "Awesome, I'm gonna watch all this now," and then I move on. Like I don't look for anything new. I don't even look for related items. I'm like, "That was cool." Move on.
Well, the biggest one for me lately, and is I discovered Disguised Toast looking for Among Us content. And then it sort of branched from there because Disguised Toast is part of an organization called Offline.tv. And then I started branching out into the other content creators that are part of Offline TV and people who are associated with them. So Pokimane, for example, being the biggest one as part of Offline TV. Anyway, I started watching some of her content. Then Skara, I started watching some of his content, and Lily Pichu and Yvonne and Fedmeister up until the middle of this year. The whole thing I don't want to get into. But
there was a thing.
We'll talk after the show.
Cool.
But like a ton of content that I hadn't previously sort of endeavored on anyway, and I came across an organization that then branched me out into more content, which then Pokimane and Toast and even Corpse Husband, for example, being one of my favorite content creators too. Anyway, I branched me into a whole new genre of music, which then also branched me into a brand new organization, which is 100 Thieves. I've never watched a bunch of their content before, but I've started watching some of their content too now that Valkyrie is part of them. It's just sort of branched and has kind of gotten out of control a little bit, and I should probably rein it in a good bit.
That dude's voice, Mr. Corpse or whatever, dude,
Corpse Husband, yeah,
it's intense. I'm just gonna lose weight. It needs to happen.
Brent, if you want to really hear his voice, on Spotify, look up Corpse in all caps.
Oh, he heard it.
We had a music video that we linked.
Yeah.
I just want to lose weight. I just gotta get back up on the being more active train. This year's been really relaxed. And so I'm not going out and playing sports with the friends. I'm not, being as active outside like we used to go, whitewater rafting or hiking in the mountains together as friends. Like, I'm not going to do that stuff by myself. But if my friends are going to do it, I'm just going to tag along and go get some exercise. But I just need to be better about my own regiment in general. Like, I have a pretty physical job, so when I get home, I'm pretty tired. But I just got to push through that and burn more calories and take less crap.
That's the big one. Is I gotta get better about what I put in. I need to be more active, but I definitely have to be better about what I put in because I put in some garbage.
I mean, there are days, man, where I do over 30,000 steps. Like, I put in some mileage on my feet, but it's still not enough based on the crap I'm eating. I'm losing weight, but I'm not losing fat like good enough. You know what I mean? Like, I want it to be good muscle ratio here.
Yeah. See, that's been a weird thing for me. Like, John, you definitely have like from a physique perspective, you have like more muscle mass because that's part of your job anyway. Is lifting a lot more. I've always for a good while I've been able to eat like crap, but not gain a ton of weight from it. Like it's I've been pretty stagnant as far as that goes. But part of that is going to the office 5 days a week and walking to lunch with Dylan, for example, like, and making sure that we're doing that, walking across uptown, or walking to and from the car and whatever else, it definitely had accelerated, I guess, or helped my physicality, at a certain point there. But now that like we're stuck with COVID and I'm working from home more often, or now I'm working from home every day of the week, it's definitely not gotten better.
Yeah.
Or stagnated like I had hoped it would.
Yeah.
Yep. Please let us know what your big strives are for the new year. Let us know in the comment section floating directly in front of John's magical mistletoe. Right there next to his thing. I hope it makes it in the frame. It's gonna be really confusing if it's not. But until next year, cheers.
Happy holidays, y'all.
Happy holidays. Bang.
Have a holiday, girl.
Mark, you're the one who's going to see this. I'm alone. You said you'd be here for me. You're not. Upset. Scared. I don't even know what to do with myself. I'm not even sure if I should keep this recording because it's kind of early. But you know what? We'll see how close it gets to you hearing. Because if it's in like 20 minutes, like 15 minutes worth of silence, which I think is kind of funny. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't.